Well, hello and welcome, Lenita, the Scrappy Grandma. And this is our Bible reading playlist, our weekly Bible reading playlist. And we are on week 25 and we're getting ready to enter into the spring feasts. So, super exciting time of year. We just started the Hebrew biblical New Year um, last week. Rosh Chodesh, the new moon, started the week of Aviv or Nisan. Different people call it different. And it is the head of the year, the beginning of the biblical New Year. They have several different New Years, but this is the head of the biblical New Year or the feasts New Year. It starts kind of when spring and everything awakens. They don't, this is not when their year changes, like, we go from 2026 to 2027 on January 1st. That happens and I'm not sure what the Hebrew, what is the Hebrew year? Oh, I can tell you because I have a calendar. Maybe. Right now, it is the Hebrew year of 5,786, and it won't change to 5,787 until um, Yom Kippur in the fall. So, but it is the biblical New Year, and this portion is called Tzav, which means command. And so before I begin, I forgot last week, so I don't want to forget this week to bring us in with prayer. Father, yeah. Thank you. You are so wonderful. You're the perfect provider. You are the perfect counselor. You're the perfect father. Thank you for all that you do and for who you are and who you created us to be and who you are working it out in us to be, Father. Father, I pray that only your words come out of my mouth, that everything I speak on this video um, will glorify you and please you and be used to move forth your purpose, Father. Father, bless everyone who listens to the recording and um, give them eyes to hear, eyes to see, and ears to hear what it is that you want to speak to us through your word. Thank you so much for your word, your instruction guide. It is so beautiful to live by your word. So thank you for providing us a complete guide to how to live the way you would have us to live. In Yeshua's name, amen. Okay, so this week it's Leviticus 6:1 through 8:36, so a couple chapters of Leviticus. The prophets is Malachi 3:4 through 24. And in the New Testament, we have two, Matthew 17:9 through 13, and Mark 12:28 through 34. So a little commentary. Hold on, got something in my eye. Sav, command, is the 25th Torah portion and continues detailing the law of sacrificial offerings. Focusing on the responsibilities of the priests, God commands Moses to instruct the priests on how to handle the olah, the burnt offering, which must remain burning on the altar throughout the night. The mincha, the grain offering, a portion of which is eaten as holy food. The hatat is a sin offering, and the asham is the guilt offering, which are brought for atonement, and the shalamim is the peace offering, parts of which are shared among the offerer, the priests, and the altar. This portion also introduces the thanksgiving offering brought in gratitude for God's deliverance or blessings. Sav concludes with the 7-day consecration ceremony for Aaron and his sons, preparing them to serve as priests in the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And the portion underscores the sanctity of the priest's duties, the importance of strict adherence to God's commands, and the role of offerings in fostering holiness, gratitude, and deep concentration to God. So, with that, let's get started. Share my screen. That one there. It takes me a few seconds to get this all lined out. Okay, hold on a little bit more. All right, there we go. There. All right. All right, so we start in Leviticus 6:1, and it says, Adonai said to Moshe, give this order to Aaron and his sons. This is the law for burnt offerings. Hebrew is olah. It is what goes up on its firewood upon the altar all night long until morning. In this way, the fire of the altar will be kept burning. When the fire has consumed the burnt offerings on the altar, the Kohen, having put on his linen garment, covers himself with his linen shorts, is to remove the ashes and put them beside the altar. So, thinking the practicality of all this and how it works, you know, there's an entire animal, ox, sheep, goat, bird, not so much, because, but, I'm thinking like a bull or, an ox or something that how long it takes to burn that entire offering up. It's just interesting to me. Um, Overnight. So they just leave it burning overnight. And then the priest goes in and he has to change into his linen garments, just his stripped down um, lesser garments, and then he removes the ashes and puts them beside the altar. So a couple of things from last week's where we were talking about how the responsibilities of each participant. So like last week, you would bring your offering, and several of them you had to dispatch yourself. You had to, and I watched a teaching on this that was beautiful in that it's intimate because you're having to get right up next to that animal and take its life. Something I'm not able to do. Um, but each person had to do it for themselves. The priest didn't do that work. And you even had to skin it and cut it up, and then the priests would start getting involved. But each individual had to do a lot of the work of these offerings themselves. And we were talking in our group on our call last week just about how um, and then, the priests, they're doing this. They're chopping wood and building the fire and the, putting the sacrifices on the fire and tending to it and butchering essentially, a cow, an ox is a huge animal. And, and I watched a teaching on this too. It was really beautiful. And it talked about how these animals were tame because they had to be led in to the Mishkan, the tabernacle. It couldn't be a wild, crazy animal that's like, you know, if you're trying to lead a wild ox, cow, whatever, steer, bull, especially, that's going to be tough because it's going to drag you around. So I mean, these are being led, which means they've been tamed, they've been part of the family, they've been cared for and loved, and then to sacrifice them. But that's what a sacrifice is. It's sacrificing something that it means something to you and, giving it over to the Most High. So, but yeah, it was just interesting all the conversations about that, these priests, well, they were warriors, first of all, because their job was also to protect the tabernacle. So they were warriors and they were strong because they're hefting pieces of meat and, you know, just the stomach. Oh, that's what it was. It was on Jacob's tent. Um, it was perfect because the man who was speaking gave he works with cattle, and so he gave some great details about, just how much the stomach weighs. And you thinking all the guts and the skin of a cow is going to be really, really heavy, especially right off of the animal while it's still full of moisture, and everything is this is heavy, and they have to take all of that outside the camp. And so, you know, these got to be really strong men. Anyway, that's what I was just getting to. So he's got now, he now removes the ashes from and puts them beside the altar. Then he's to remove those garments and put on others before carrying the ashes outside the camp to a clean place. In this way, the fire on the altar will be kept burning and not allowed to go out. Each morning, the Kohen, the priest, is to kindle the wood on it, arrange the burnt offerings, and make the fat of peace offerings go up in smoke. So there's an offering every morning and an offering every evening. Um, and kind of beautiful because there is no temple currently, so we're not able to do the temple sacrifices. Um, what we do now, kind of like what Daniel did when he was in captivity in Babylon and unable to do the temple sacrifices, he offered up his prayer and his praise as a sacrifice every morning and every evening. I think he also did a third time of the day too. So, fire is to be kept burning on the altar continually. It is not to go out. This is the law for the grain offering. The sons of Aaron are to offer it before Adonai in front of the altar, the priests and the offering. Okay, so I'm sorry, that was all for the grain offering. Um, oh, not sure if this is coming. Yeah, I'm sorry. That should have been below. Anyway, this is he is to take the grain offering, a handful of its fine flour, and we had discussed last week that the fine flour, they would grind it and grind it and grind it, and when they would present it, the priest would rub his hands together and create static electricity, and then he would run his hands across the top, not touching it, across the top, and if it raised up, if the static electricity brought the flour up to his hands, that meant it was fine flour. It was ground fine enough that it was light. And so they're to bring a handful of fine flour, some of it's olive oil, and all of the frankincense, which is on the grain offering. And he's to make this reminder portion of it go up in smoke on the altar as a fragrant aroma to Adonai. The rest of it, Aaron and his sons are to eat. It is to be eaten without leaven in a holy place. They are to eat it in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. Okay, so this goes back to my practical. So, like, I'm wondering if, like, there were picnic, of course, there weren't picnic tables, but kind of like that. I mean, if there was places set up where, because there was a lot of times where this food was to be shared. And so were there, I'll have to let me make a note. Um, where did they eat? In the courtyard. So, there had to have been places set up for them to be able to sit down and eat this, or recline and eat this, as was their custom, I guess, in those days. Um, so they're to eat it without leaven in a holy place. They're to eat it in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. It is not to be baked with leaven. I have given it as their portion of my offering made by fire, like the sin offering and the guilt offering. It is especially holy, and every male descendant of Aaron may eat of it. It is his share of the offering for Adonai made by fire forever through all your generations. Whatever touches those offerings will become holy. Adonai said to Moshe, "This is the offering for Adonai that Aaron and his sons are to offer on the day he is anointed: 2 quarts of fine flour, half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening as a grain offering from them, from then on. It is to be mixed with olive oil and fried on the griddle. They bring it in, break it in pieces, and offer the grain offering as a fragrant aroma to Adonai. The anointed Cohen, the anointed priest, who will take Aaron's place from among his descendants, will offer it. It is a perpetual obligation, meaning they're obligated to do this forever. It must be entirely made to go up in smoke for Adonai. Every grain offering of the Cohen is entirely made to go up in smoke, it is not to be eaten. Adonai said to Moshe, tell Aaron and his sons that this is the law for the sin offering, and the sin offering is to be slaughtered before Adonai in the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered. It is especially holy. The Cohen, the priest who offers it for sin, is to eat it. It is to be eaten in a holy place in a courtyard of the tent of meeting. So one of them, all of Aaron's descendants can eat. This one is only to be eaten. Adonai slaughtered, and the Cohen who offers it for the sin is to be eaten in the holy place. Whatever touches its flesh will become holy. If any of its blood splashes on any item of clothing, you are to wash it in the holy place, in a holy place. The clay pot in which it is cooked must be broken. If it is cooked in a bronze pot, it must be scoured and rinsed in water. Any male from the family of the Kohanim, of the priests, Aaron's priestly line, Aaron is the priestly line, may eat the sin offering. It is especially holy. But no sin offering which has had any of its blood brought into the tent of meeting is to make atonement in the holy place. To make atonement in the holy place is to be eaten. It's to be burned up completely. This is the law for the guilt offering. It is especially holy. They are to slaughter the guilt offering in the place where the slaughter and burnt offerings, where they slaughter the burnt offerings. And its blood is to be splashed against the sides of the altar. So I think this goes with what we just read. So they splash the blood. What does it say down here? But no sin offering which has had its blood brought into the tent of meeting to make atonement in the holy place is to be eaten. So let's see what it says here, because the blood came in and it's splashed. And the blood is to be splashed against all sides of the altar. Okay. He is to offer all of its fat, the tail fat, and the fat covering the inner organs. The two kidneys, the fat on them near the flanks, and the covering of the liver, which he will remove with the kidneys. So we talked about last week where the different types of fat. There's the subcutaneous fat, and I'm pretty sure, yeah. I can't remember the two. But yeah, subcutaneous is like the fat that we have that grows on top of our muscle or in between our muscle. So it'd be like the marbling in a ribeye. That's muscle fat. Then there's the internal fat, and that muscle fat is white and it's harder. So like when you're trimming the fat off your steak, that is, I'm pretty sure that's the subcutaneous fat. And that's not what they're referring to. They're referring here to the visceral fat, the fat that's around the organs, which is different. It's softer and completely different from the fat we normally see, unless you're a butcher, or you've butchered your own animals. So this internal fat is the fat that they're talking about, the fat that's around the organs. The internal fat is the fat that we're not, that we're supposed to offer up to him and not eat, which most of us don't, because modern day butchering, they discard that when they're butchering the meat. So the Cohen is to make them go up in smoke on the altar, and an offering made by fire to Adonai. It is a guilt offering. Every male from the family of Kohanim may eat it. So all of Aaron's descendants. It is to be eaten in the holy place. It is especially holy. So with Aaron's descendants, Aaron's from the tribe of Levi, but Aaron's descendants are the priests. Levites aren't. The Levites tend to the tabernacle and guard it and take care of it. But Aaron is from the tribe of Levi. He is the high priest, and then his sons are the priests. And then when he dies, one of his sons will become the high priest. The guilt offering is like the sin offering. The same law governs them. It will belong to the Cohen who uses it to make atonement. The Cohen who offers someone's burnt offering will possess the hide of the burnt offering, which he has offered. Okay, this is cool. So he gets to keep the hide of these burnt offerings. So their family, so I'm sure they were probably expert tanners, because they're dealing with all these hides and everything, and they were able to use the hide and the fur and all of the things for their life. Every grain offering baked in the oven, cooked in a pot, or fried on the griddle will belong to the Cohen who offers it. But every grain offering which is mixed with olive oil or is dry will belong to the sons of Aaron equally. This is the law for sacrificing peace offerings offered to Adonai. If a person offers it for giving thanks, he is to offer it with the thanksgiving sacrifice of unleavened cakes mixed with olive oil, matzah, unleavened, spread with olive oil, and cakes made of fine flour mixed with the olive oil and fried. With cakes of unleavened bread, he is to present his offering together with sacrifice of his peace offering for giving thanks. From each kind of offering, he is to present one as a gift for Adonai. It will belong to the Cohen who splashes the blood of the peace offerings against the altar. The meat of the sacrifice of his peace offering for giving thanks is to be eaten on the day of his offering. He is not to leave any of it until morning. But if the sacrifice connected with his offering is for a vow or is a voluntary offering, then while it is to be eaten on the day he offers a sacrifice, what remains of it may be eaten the next day. He's just so specific about all of these things. And most of us, I'm sure you could admit, most times read through this and it was just like, blah, 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 blah. Oh, this, that, but none of it made sense because it's so hard to make it make sense in our world. And so we just kind of like, okay, this is just how they did it in the old days. I mean, but there's so much, it symbolizes so much, and his ways are perfect. Anyway, so, but if the sacrifice connected with his offering is for a vow or a voluntary offering, then while it's to be eaten on the same day he offers his sacrifice, what remains he may be eaten the next day. However, what remains of the meat of the sacrifice on the third day is to be burned up completely. If any of the meat of the sacrifice of his peace offering is eaten on the third day, the sacrifice will neither be accepted nor credited to the person offering it. Rather, it will become a disgusting thing, and whoever eats it will bear the consequences of his wrongdoing. I would imagine there's no refrigeration. It's getting yucky at that point. Don't want to eat it. Meat which touches something unclean is not to be eaten but burned up completely. As for the meat, anyone who is clean may eat it. But a person in a state of uncleanness who eats any meat from the sacrifice of peace offerings made to Adonai will be cut off from his people. Now we have to understand when they say unclean, it doesn't mean they're bad, dirty people. It just means that they've done something that has made them ceremonially unclean, meaning maybe, like in my case, their parent just died and they touched that dead body um, because it's their responsibility to bury their loved one. And so, but it's not mean that they've just completely damned themselves because they did this act. Or like when a woman is during her monthly flow, she's unclean at that point in time. It doesn't mean that she's dirty or ugly or bad. It just means that she's not able to go in and be around the holy things. If you've touched a dead body in that day, you're not allowed to come and be around. I think that might be 7 days with a dead body. I don't remember, but there's a certain period of time when you can't come around the things that are holy. It doesn't mean you're dirty or bad. It just means you can't come around the holy things for a period of time until you've washed and, taken a bath and washed your clothes and stuff. Anyone who touches something unclean, whether the uncleanness from a person, the clean from an animal, from some other unclean, detestable thing, then eats the meat from the sacrifice of peace offering for Adonai, that person will be cut off from his people. He's just not respecting the laid out ways. Adonai said to Moshe, "Say to the people of Israel, you are not to eat the fat of bulls, sheep, or goats. The fat of animals that die of themselves or are killed by wild animals may be used for any other purpose, but under no circumstances are you to eat it." I mean, come on, that makes sense. Um, if it died, you don't know what's wrong with it, you're not wanting to eat it because whatever's wrong with it might affect you. If it's been killed by wild animals, it's got all of their dirtiness um, on it, and yeah, probably not want to eat it. So whoever eats the fat of the animals of the kind used in presenting an offering made by fire to Adonai will be cut off from the people. The fat belongs to the Father, and we're talking once again about the internal fat around the organs. You are not to eat any kind of blood, whether from birds of animals or if in any of your homes. Whoever eats any blood will be cut off from his people. It's just that is, the life is in the blood, and we're not to eat the blood. Moshe said, Adonai said to Moshe, and I know a lot of people oh, when I have a rare steak, there's liquid that comes out on my plate, and that's blood, and it's not. I forget what it's called. It starts with an M, but it's a red fluid, like muscle breakdown or something, from what I understood. But it's not blood. The blood is drained out of the animals that we buy at the grocery store. I mean, unless you're buying like blood sausage, where they actually make sausage out of blood, gross. But I mean, butchered animals in America, for FDA stuff, from what I understand, the blood is drained from all of those animals. And if you butcher your own, you do that. Um, Say to the people of Israel, a person who offers his sacrifice of peace offerings to Adonai is to bring part of his sacrifice of peace offerings as his offering for Adonai. He is to bring it with his own hands, the offering for Adonai made by fire. He is to bring the breast with its fat. The breast is to be waved as a wave offering before Adonai. Okay, so we're talking, the whole breast of a cow is a big piece of meat, and then they're supposed to wave it, and this is a lot. This is heavy. Um, the Cohen, the priest, is to make the fat go up in smoke on the altar, but the breast will belong to Aaron and his descendants. He gets to eat that piece of, they get to eat that piece of choice meat. You are to give the right thigh. Once again, if we're talking a cow, this is a big piece of, for your sacrifices of peace offering to the Cohen as a contribution. The descendant of Aaron who offers the blood of the peace offering is to have the right thigh as his share. For the breast that has been waved and the thigh that has been contributed, I have taken from the people of Israel out of their sacrifices of peace offering and given them to Aaron the Cohen and his descendants as their share forever from the people of Israel. So he's caring for the priests who aren't out there toiling, growing gardens and raising their own flocks and animals. They're there to care for the tabernacle and the holy things and the all of the things that the fathers asked them. So the community feeds them. This is one of the beautiful things that I've been learning, is that the sense of community is, we don't understand it in our day to day. They truly feel connected with one another. They are their brother's keeper. Um, and I'm talking about the Jewish people currently, but I mean, this is something that they've learned through all of this in studying the Torah. And I'm not gonna, no, we're not gonna go with all the different, this is the, the, the Jews who, like us, are following and following after the Most High. There's just it's like I said, in their DNA, but it's because they've been taught these ways from birth, where we haven't. We're just now learning these things. However, I'm turning 64 years old, and now, just been learning these things over the past, 5 or 6, however many years. It's going to take a lot but what I'm understanding and seeing is they believe in communal, like what they do affects everybody in their community. So I think America back in the 50s and stuff, we had more of a feeling of that, of, you know, honor, collective honor, wanting to bring honor on our community, on our country. It was honor, and not wanting to bring disgrace or anything like that, and not wanting to disgrace our parents and things like that. And then we've definitely lost that over the last 50 years, I think. Um, 50, 60, yeah, 70 years. So, but this is really cool that they take care of each other. and make sure, and they are their brother's keeper. On the day when Aaron and his sons were presented to serve Adonai in the office of Cohen, this portion was set aside for him and his descendants from the offerings for Adonai made by fire. And on the day they were anointed, Adonai ordered that this be given to them by the people of Israel. It is their share forever throughout their generations. This is the law for burnt offering, the grain offering, the sin offering, the guilt offering, the consecration offering, and the sacrifice of peace offering, which Adonai ordered Moshe on Mount Sinai on the day he ordered the people of Israel to present their offerings to the Adonai in the Sinai desert. Now we're going to the consecration of Aharon and his sons. Adonai said to Moshe, take Aharon and his sons with him, the garments, the anointing oil, the bowl for the sin offering, the 2 rams, and the basket of matzah. Here we go. This is what they've been preparing for. It's time to finally, do this. And assemble the entire community at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Moshe did as Adonai ordered him, and the community was assembled at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Moshe said to the community, this is what Adonai has ordered to be done. Moshe brought Aharon and his sons and washed them with water and put the tunic on him, wrapped the sash around him, clothed him with the robe, put the ritual vest on him, wrapped around him the decorated belt, and fastened the vest to him with it. He put the breastplate on him, and into the breastplate he put the Urim and the Thummim. And this I learned, and so I've been picturing it all wrong for a period of time. So I thought it was rocks, the Urim and the Thummim were rocks that had like something engraved on them. But oh my gosh, a couple weeks ago when it first came up, I read that it's actually, in one of the books I'm reading, that it's actually a parchment. So let me real quick see if I can, what was the Urim and Thummim, Tumm. Okay, let's see what it says, because I was wrong for so long. So in the Hebrew Bible, the elements of the Hoshen, the breastplate worn by the high priest. So remember, it was folded in half to make like a pocket. The breastplate was. And attached to the ephod is a type of apron or garment. The pair used frequently in the Old Testament and Exodus 28:30 and Leviticus 8:8, which is what we're reading right now. God's instruction to Aaron on how to adorn his breastplate worn in the holy place. Okay, but King Samuel determined who was at fault for breaking the army's fast. I mean, this is what I've learned that it was for. It was kind of like the father would show them through the Urim and Thummim what he wanted to show them. This was his way of answering their questions about things. But what is it? Breastplate worn. Okay, it says elements of the breastplate, but it doesn't. It was used by King Saul to determine who was at fault for breaking the army's fast, and Ezra 2 to determine whether those who claimed to be descendants of the priests of Israel were truly that class. Sometimes connected, it's like divination, casting lots. They would use it basically like that. Although it's equally likely no casting was physically done, and that the participants in the ritual waved for a sign to answer a question to reveal the will of God. Well, shoot, I was hoping it would say, but in the book I was reading, it says that it was a parchment, I think. So I'll have to make a note, because I thought it was rocks for like casting lots, because I knew that it was for that, but I thought it was rocks that they used for casting lots. Okay, so if you know, put it in the comments to let me know, because yeah. Okay, so he set the turban on his head, and in front of the turban he affixed the gold plate, the holy ornament, as Adonai had ordered Moshe, that said, set apart for Yod He Vav He. Then Moshe took the anointing oil and anointed the tabernacle and everything in it, thus consecrating them. He sprinkled some on the altar 7 times, anointing the altar with all of its utensils and the basin with its base to consecrate them. And he poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head and anointed him to concentrate him. And Moshe brought Aaron's sons, clothed them with tunics, wrapped sashes on them, and put headgear on them as Adonai had ordered Moshe. Then the young bull for the sin offering was brought, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the bull. Okay, once again, we're talking these bull, massive, huge animal had to be led in. So it's a friendly animal, it's a loved animal. And they put their hands on it and basically, confess their sins um, on the head of the bull for the sin offering. And after it has been slaughtered, Moshe, okay, so Moshe's doing this right now. He took the blood and put it on the horns of the altar. So, Moshe's not a high priest, but Moshe is anointing the priests into the priesthood. So this one time, Moshe's actually doing these things. Um, okay, so he took the blood and put it on the horns of the altar all the way around with his finger, thus purifying the altar. The remaining blood he poured out at the base of the altar and consecrated it to make atonement for it. Moshe took all the fat of the inner organs, the covering of the liver, the 2 kidneys, and their fat, and made it go up in smoke on the altar. Like I said, Moshe's doing this. But the bull, its hide, its flesh, and dung were taken outside the camp and burned up completely as Adonai had ordered Moshe. And this makes, did they have carts? How did they transport these extremely heavy things? Because, like, the hide and its dung, that's in its stomach and everything. That's a lot. Next, the ram for the burnt offering was presented. Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram, and after it had been slaughtered, Moshe splashed the blood on all sides of the altar. When the ram had been cut in pieces, Moshe made the head, the pieces of fat, go up in smoke. When the inner organs and the lower parts of the legs had been washed with water, so, okay, now they're having to, hold on 1 second. I have got to, 1 second. Apologize. I had to go get, I was feeling a little dizzy. I needed to go get something to eat. All right. So when the inner organs and the lower parts of the legs had been washed with water, Moshe made the entire ram go up in smoke on the altar. It was a burnt offering, giving a fragrant aroma, an offering made by fire to Adonai, as Adonai had ordered. Then the other ram was presented, the ram of consecration. Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram. After it had been slaughtered, Moshe took some of its blood and put it on the tip of Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Um, what I've come to understand with this, the symbolic of, what we hear, what we do, and where we go. So that's what those symbolize. Next, Aaron's sons were brought, and Moshe put some of the blood on the tips of their right ears, on the thumbs of their right hands, and on the big toe of their right feet. But Moshe splashed the blood on all sides of the altar. Okay, so this is where I'm like, this is getting really dirty. All this blood is being splashed everywhere. And just trying to picture what it's like there. And I was just like, oh. He took the fat and the fat tail, all the fat covering the inner organs, and the covering of the liver, the 2 kidneys, and the fat on the right thigh. From the basket of matzah, the unleavened bread that was before Adonai, he took 1 piece of matzah, 1 cake of oiled bread, and 1 wafer, and placed them on the fat of the right and on the right thigh. He put it all in Aaron's hand and in the hands of his sons and waved them as a wave offering before Adonai. Moshe took them out of their hands and made them go up in smoke on the altar. On top of the burnt offering, they were consecration offerings, giving a fragrant aroma, an offering made by fire to Adonai. So they're layering all this on this fire. You've got this big fire. And you can imagine where all the wood came from to keep these fires burning like this fire burning. Moshe took the breast and waved it as a wave offering before Adonai. It was Moshe's portion of the ram of consecration, as Adonai had ordered Moshe. So here he actually, cool. I've never noticed that before. He took the breast and waved it as a wave offering before. It was Moshe's portion. Moshe's portion was the breast of this. Wow. Moshe took some of the anointing oil and some of the blood which was on the altar and sprinkled it on Aaron and his clothing and his sons with him and their clothing, and consecrated Aaron and his clothing together with the sons and their clothing. Okay, so this is where it's like, I'm picturing they have these beautiful, white linen undergarments, and then they have all these beautiful ornate things, the ephod, which is like an apron, and then the breastplate and all the things, and now they're getting blood splattered all over them. Wow. Moshe said to Aaron and his sons, boil the meat at the door of the tent of meeting and eat it there with the bread that is in the basket of consecration, as ordered when I said that Aaron and his sons are to eat it. Whatever is left over of the meat and bread, you are to burn up completely. You are not to go out of the entrance of the tent of meeting for 7 days until the day of your consecration are over, since Adonai will be consecrating you for 7 days. So they're to remain in there doing service for an entire week, 7 days. He ordered, done what has been done today in order to make atonement for you. You are to remain at the entrance to the tent of meeting and day and night for 7 days, whereby obeying what Adonai ordered done, so that you may not die. For this is what I was ordered. Aaron and his sons did all the things which Adonai ordered through Moshe. So now we go to Malachi, which is like the last prophet in right before Matthew, and it's Malachi 3, 4. All right. The offering of Yehuda and Jerusalem, so Judah and Jerusalem, will be pleasing to Adonai as it was in the days of old, as in years gone by. Then I will approach you for judgment, and I will be quick to witness against sorcerers, adulterers, perjurers, against those who take advantage of wage earners, widows, orphans, against those who rob the foreign of his rights and don't fear, says Adonai Sabaoth. So let's go back and see what they're doing. Look, I'm sending a messenger to clear its way before me. The Lord whom you seek will suddenly come to this temple. Yes, the messenger of the covenant in whom you take such delight. Look, here he comes, says Adonai Sabaoth. But who can endure the day when he comes? Who can stand when he appears? For he will be like a refiner's fire, like a soap maker's lye. He will sit testing and purifying the silver. He will purify the sons of Levi, refining them like silver and gold, so that they can bring an offering to Adonai uprightly. Okay, so this is prophecy. Then the offering of the Yehuda and Jerusalem will be a pleasing aroma, as was in the days of old, as in the years gone by. Then I will approach you for judgment. I will be quick to witness against sorcerers, adulterers, perjurers, against those who take advantage of wage earners, widows, orphans, against those who rob the foreigner of his rights and do not fear me, says Adonai Sabaoth, robbing God. But because I, Adonai, do not change, you, sons of Yaakov, will not be destroyed. Since the days of your forefathers you have turned from my law and have not kept them. Return to me, and I will return to you, says Adonai Sabaoth. But you ask, in respect to what are we supposed to return? Can a person rob God? Yet you rob me. But you ask, how have we robbed you? In tenths and voluntary contributions, tithes and offerings. Tithe means tenth, and voluntary contributions is offerings. You're offering voluntarily. A curse is on you, on your whole nation, because you robbed me. Bring the whole tenth into the storehouse, so that there will be food in my house, and put me to the test, says Adonai Sabaoth. See if I won't open for you the floodgates of heaven and pour out for you the blessings far beyond your needs. So this is like, this is the church's go-to passage to make people tithe. So not sure that it was actually meant for that. but it was checking the heart, that they had gotten away from, bringing their offerings and their tithes. For your sakes, I will forbid him. This is one thing I learned decades ago that I never saw that this part was attached to it. When you tithe, when you bring to him what, I mean, we've got to realize that, and it was even back with what just we read in Leviticus. I mean, yeah, in Leviticus about the offerings is that everything we have has been given to us by the Most High, provided to us by the Most High. So basically, we're giving back the gift that He has given to us. We're giving back a portion of it, all of it, we're giving back. And same here is like, the tithe and the offerings are, all it is giving back to Him what He's given to us. Um, Hold on one second. Okay, so sorry about that. Took a call. For your sakes, I will forbid okay, so this is so cool. Back to the tithe. So, um, bring the whole tenth into the storehouse so that there will be food in my house and put me to the test, says Adonai Sabaoth. See if I won't open the floodgates of heaven and pour out for you a blessing far beyond your needs. Basically, it's like making sure that the people are taken care of, not just yourself, but the community. Once again, collective honor, collective shame. Let's take care of the community. We are our brother's keeper. Let's make sure everyone's taken care of. And if you do this, he's going to pour out blessings and make sure that you're always provided for. And this is the one I never, a few decades ago when I first saw it, and I was like, whoa, for your sakes, I will forbid the devourer to destroy the yield from your soil and your vine, and your vine will not lose its fruit before harvest time, says Adonai Sabaoth. So not only is he going to pour out blessings, but he's also going to forbid the devourer from taking away from you as well. So he's going to provide, but he's also going to preserve. So I always thought that was really cool, when we make sure that we take care of the community. All nations will call you happy, for you will be a land of delight, says Adonai Sabaoth. This is still going back to the promise. If you bring, basically when you bring the whole tenth into the storehouse, you bring your tithe into the storehouse. So basically, you're making sure that you're setting this aside and that it's there for the needs of the people, the community, your neighbors. Love your neighbor as yourself. But so these are all the promises that go with it. He's going to open the floodgates of heaven and pour out blessings far beyond your needs. He's going to completely provide for you. And then he's going to forbid the devourer from destroying what you have. And all nations are going to call you happy, for you're a land of delights. And you have spoken strongly against me, says Adonai, yet you say, how have we spoken against you? By saying there is no point in serving God. What good is it to obey his orders or to walk about as mourners before Adonai Sabaoth? We consider the arrogant happy, so evildoers prosper. They put God to the test, nevertheless they escape. The Book of Remembrance. Then those who feared Adonai spoke together, and Adonai listened and heard. A record book was written in his presence for those who feared Adonai and had respect for his name. They will be mine, says Adonai Sabaoth. On the day when I compose my own special treasure, I will spare them as man spares his own son who serves him. Then once again, you will see the difference between the righteous and the wicked, between the person who serves God and the one who doesn't serve him. For the day is coming, burning like a furnace, when all the proud and evildoers will be stubble. The day that is coming will set them ablaze, says Adonai Sabaoth, and leave them neither root nor branch. So everything that is not honoring him is going to be burned up. But to you who fear me, the Sun of Righteousness will rise with healing in its wings, and you will break out leaping like calves released from a stall. You will trample the wicked. They will be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day when I take action, says Adonai Sabaoth. Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant. Remember the instructions, Torah's instructions. Remember the instructions of Moshe, my servant, which I enjoined on him at Horeb, Mount Horeb. Laws and rulings for all of Israel. And everyone's like, oh, see, it's just for Israel. Other places it says that Israel is actually responsible for bringing the Father's instructions to the nations, the rest of the world. And that's what they're doing. I mean, from the very beginning, they've lived it, messed up, like us all as humans. But their whole thing is to live it and to know it and to understand it. And now their job is to bring it to the nations. Um, and there's several that that's what they're doing now. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see what's happening. So remember the instructions of Moses, my servant, which I enjoined on him at Horeb, Mount Horeb, the laws of ruling for all of Israel. But that means for all of us as well that want to walk in covenant with him. Look, I will send you Eliyahu, Elijah, the prophet, before the coming of the great and terrible day of Adonai. What do you think that means? I think we're in the time of tribulation currently, and that biblical prophecies going down right before our eyes. So he will turn the hearts of the father to the children and the hearts of the children to the father. Otherwise, I will come and strike the land with complete destruction. It says, look, I will send you Eliyahu the prophet before the coming of the great and terrible day of Adonai. So interesting. Now we go to Matthew, and it's Matthew 17:9. As they came down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, don't tell anyone what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. Okay, so let's go back and see what they've seen. This is the transfiguration. This is when Elijah came. 6 days later, Jesus took Peter, Yeshua took Kepha, Yaakov, Jacob, which they called James, or Jacob, yeah, Yaakov is Jacob, but I know that a lot of the names were changed to James by King James. So it must have been, was it Peter, James, and John? Yeah, Peter, James, and John. And led them high up on a mountain privately. As they watched, he began to change form. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what that was like? And notice it was just his closest three. It was his brother and James and John. I'm sorry, it was his brother James and Peter and John, his closest three. And out of the 12. And he began to change form, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothing became white as light. And they looked and saw Moshe and Elijah, speaking with him. And Kepha said to Yeshua, is it good that we're here, Lord? It is good that we're here, Lord. I'll put up 3 shelters if you want. One for you, one for Moshe, and one for Eliyahu. And this is because it was the time of Sukkot, tabernacles. Put up a booth. While he was still speaking, a bright cloud enveloped him, and a voice from the cloud said, this is my son, whom I love, and in whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him. When the Taladim, the disciples, those 3, had heard this, they were so frightened they fell face down on the ground. So they fell prostrate on the ground. But Yeshua came and touched them. Get up and don't be afraid. So they opened their eyes and looked and saw only Yeshua, Jesus, by himself. So as they came down the mountain, Yeshua ordered them, don't tell anyone what you've seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. Okay, so he's already imparting what's going to be happening with those 3, his closest pod of the disciples. And this is kind of what we have patterned our discipleship pods in our women's discipleship group into groups of 3 with Yeshua as our head. And then the 3 of us, and we commit with one another. We actually sign commitments to one another, covenants with one another, that we are here to be there completely, mind, body, and spirit and soul, um, with these other women, um, to do life with them for a 3-month period of time. And we just had our first group. It just ended, and we've just been broken up into a different group, different women, and it is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The friendships and the, like I've been speaking, the community, the coming together and being responsible for and taking care of others, committing to doing that in reality, um, is really beautiful. So anyway, so the Taladim, that means disciple. So the Taladim, his disciples asked him, then why do the Torah teachers say that Eliyahu must come first? And he answered, on the one hand, Eliyahu is coming and will restore all things. Now, this is interesting here. On the other hand, I tell you that Eliyahu has come already, and the people did not recognize him and did whatever they pleased to him. In the same way, the Son of Man, too, is about to suffer at their hands. So, what he's talking about is Eliyahu, the spirit of Eliyahu came down through John the Baptist. And they, he was put to death. The Taladim understood that he was talking to them about Yohanan, the immerser, John the Baptist. So, and then Mark 12:28 through 34. Here we go. The Great Commandment. One of the Torah teachers came up and heard them engaged in this discussion. Seeing that Yeshua, Jesus, answered them well, he asked them, which is the most important mitzvah, commandment, of them all, or law, rule. And Yeshua answered, the most important is Shema Israel, Adonai Elohim, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. That's the first commandment. Everyone thinks the first commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, but the first commandment is to acknowledge that He is the Lord, and He is one, Ahad, one. And you are to love the Lord Adonai with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your understanding, and with all your strength. Now, let's be honest. Do we love him with all our heart above all things? Do we love him with all our soul above all things? Do we love him with all our understanding above all things? That's a big one, because our understanding, okay, how do we understand and perceive this world? What are the thoughts and beliefs that we've developed over the decades of our life that are not loving him with our understanding, because we're understanding things from the world, not understanding things from his perspective. And it's an interesting process to take those thoughts captive and actually bring them into alignment with Yeshua and what he's saying right here. So loving him with all of our understanding and with all of our strength, meaning fervent. I always have to ask myself this on a regular basis to make sure that I'm in alignment. Am I loving him with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my understanding, with all my strength? Am I? And where are the areas that I'm not? And those are the areas that I need to take those thoughts captive and bring them into alignment. So that's the first and most important commandment, is that to acknowledge that he is the one and only God, and that he is one, and that we're to love him with all our heart, mind, soul, body, and strength. The second, is to love your neighbor as yourself. There is no greater mitzvah than these. And this is a part, maybe this isn't, somewhere else it says that on these two commandments hang all of the Torah and prophets, meaning those are the two, but then all the rest of the law and all of the things taught in the prophets hang on those two. And it's a really beautiful word picture if you put the two and then you have all the law and all the prophets. So the Torah teacher said, said to him, "Well said, Rabbi, you speak the truth when you say that he is one and that there is no other beside him, and that loving him with all one's heart, understanding, strength, and loving one's neighbor as oneself means more than all the burnt offerings and sacrifices." When Yeshua saw that he had responded sensibly, he said to him, "You are not far from the kingdom of God." And after that, no one dared put him to another Shelah test. So, ah, all right. That is the Torah portion or the Bible reading of Tzavah, command. So, a lot of people, this book, uh, and it's so pivotal because it's the book in the middle. There's 5 books, and it's the book in the middle. And there's Exodus, there's Genesis, then there's Exodus, then there's Leviticus, then there's Numbers and Deuteronomy. It's the pivot. It's the pivot point, and um, it I know for myself for years, I would just blah, 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 blah. Oh, sacrifice. Okay. Doesn't make any sense to me. Bull, altar, blood. Yeah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's just check. I read that, but I didn't dive into it, study it, and understand it. And boy, if I can encourage you to really dig into the book of Leviticus, it is beautiful and it's beautiful for our lives. And so, thank you for joining me, for coming along this adventure and journey with me. Um, I wasn't able to record on Sunday, which I like to try to do. We went and visited with my mom and my stepdad. We went to our favorite winery and had a picnic lunch, which was really sweet and beautiful. And it was under this big, beautiful, flowing, weeping willow tree surrounded by grapevines and grass and picnic tables. And it was a lovely day. Lovely day. But praise Yah, I had time this morning. My daughter's coming over with the grands here shortly. And she is, because I've been really, really exhausted from just everything with my dad and then all the fallout after my dad and just everything that's happening. But she's coming over to help me remove the leaven from my house because I'm just physically not able to doing it on my own right now. So she's coming to help me. So we're going to be going through my pantry and the refrigerator and getting rid of the leaven because Passover's next week. So also, this portion is I apologize. I should have had this already. You know what? Let me see. Let me go here and see what comes up. Let me just see if I can go read it, if I've got it. Oh, I know I do have it here. There we go. So I'm just going to read it. So this Sabbath is called Shabbat HaGadol. HaGadol is high priest. So Okay, so in simple terms, Shabbat HaGadol is the Sabbath of preparation before deliverance. This is the Sabbath before the Passover, a time to pause, reflect, and get ready for God, what God is about to do. Excuse me. So here, Shabbat HaGadol means the great Sabbath. So this coming Shabbat Saturday is the great Sabbath. It's the Sabbath that falls right before the Passover, before Pesach. And here's what it means and why it matters, the timing. It happens the Sabbath immediately before Passover. It prepares the heart and the home for the upcoming redemption celebration. Why it's called great. There are a few connected reasons. A great miracle. In the days leading up to the Exodus, Israel was commanded to take a lamb into their homes. Exodus 12. And this was bold because the lamb was sacred to the Egyptians. Yet God protected his people. This act of obedience before deliverance is remembered as a great moment, a great message. Traditionally, this Sabbath includes teaching and preparation for Passover, reflecting on it, redemption, obedience, and God's faithfulness. A great turning point. It marks the transition from slavery to freedom, a final step before God delivers his people out of Egypt. The spiritual meaning, Shabbat HaGadol, is about preparation, getting ready for redemption, obedience, trusting God before the breakthrough comes. Oh, that's just so big. It's like trust him and step out. Don't wait. Trust him and step out. So, preparation, getting ready for the redemption, obedience, trusting God before the breakthrough comes, remembrance, recalling what God has done over and over and over again. It is so good for us to constantly bring to remembrance all of the things that he has done, where everywhere he's been faithful, everywhere he's provided, everything he's provided. Every time he has shown up and taken care of what he promised he would do, we need to set up remembrances of these so that we can remind ourselves and those that we love all that the Father has done for us. And expectation, knowing that deliverance is near. And in our world right now, it's a different world than, Rusty and I talk about it all the time. It's really a different world than we grew up in, which is sad. Um, sorry, the world we grew up in, there was more of a connectedness. We took care of one another. We cared about bringing honor to our families. I didn't so much. Rusty did. I could care less. I was out for me. But anyway, um, we're living in a world now that we're not free. We are not. We have the appearance of freedom, but at any time, I mean, look at 2020 and what happened, and the freedoms that we thought we had that were removed or challenged. And, we live in a country where I personally, I mean, and I know a lot of us, it's hard to stand behind what they're doing and how they're, it's hard to support the country that we live in currently because of, especially here in California, in the state I live in, where it's like so much of the laws that are passed are real damaging and real make life really difficult to live here. Um, and we're crying out just like the slaves in Egypt, where they were living and they were living under living in an environment where they had no control over certain things and they just had to suffer the consequences of them. So we're knowing that right now our deliverance is near, that He sets us free, and that His kingdom is coming, and we're eagerly awaiting the kingdom. So the connections to the Messiah, many also connect this to Yeshua entering Jerusalem before Passover, the lamb being presented before sacrifice, and the reminder that redemption comes through the lamb. In simple terms, Shabbat HaGadol is the Sabbath of preparation before deliverance, a time to pause, reflect, and get ready for what God is about to do. So I love this, and that this is what this Sabbath. So as we go into this Sabbath this week, let's be taking time to pause, reflect, get ready, get the leaven out of the house. Get leaven puffs up. Leaven is like pride, it puffs up. And so we have to really examine, pause, reflect, examine ourselves, do an audit, do a self audit on, sorry, let me get back to, there we go. Do a self audit of where pride is still standing strong in our lives, where the puffed up pride is, and pray for Him to reveal this to us so that we can sacrifice it on the altar, get rid of it, get rid of the leaven. There's no leaven on. So sorry about sacrificing. I'll take that back. That we get rid of the leaven, that we get rid of the puffed up pride in our lives that prevent us from those promises that I just read in Mark, I think, or in Malachi. In Malachi, puffed up pride prevents us from receiving those promises. And so take this time this next week and doing some purging, get some purging done, get a bonfire going, start cutting off all of that stuff and burning it up, getting rid of it. So thank you for joining me. Father, Yah, bless everyone for this week. Help us all to prepare our hearts and minds for the upcoming feasts. In Yeshua's name, amen. Be blessed. We'll see you, Yah willing, next week.